It's headed towards the end of January, and the Grimsley Whirlies are absolutely rolling, undefeated in conference play. We welcome you in to This is Whirlie Nation Basketball Edition. I'm your host, Chase Williams, here with the head coach of the Grimsley Whirlies, Coach Corbett. How are you doing tonight, Coach?
Doing well, Chase. Thanks for having us on again, man. I really appreciate it.
It's always great to sit down and chat a little bit about the Whirlies, the basketball team. And as I mentioned, they're playing extremely well. It's been a little bit since we've talked. Let's take a look back before we take a look ahead. Since the last time we talked, there's been a few games going on. The Whirlies actually have not two, but three different wins, one over Western Guilford, rivalry win over Page, and then a road win this past Friday over Southwest. Talk to me. We'll talk about those games individually a little bit, but talk to me where the team sits mentally and physically right now.
Oh, well, right now, mentally, we're in a really good place. And I think, but, one of the things that we were concerned about all year long was just the fact that us having the ability to get some practices under our belt and try to build some sort of chemistry. And so we're finally able to see what we've been expecting all along with the fact that we've been playing at a high level of basketball right now. So, we're excited about what the team is doing and the things that we've been able to accomplish in the past 3 weeks. But, we got still got to take things one game at a time.
And again, it's been a while since we've talked, so let's take a look back at those last two home games first. That includes a 19-point victory over Western Guilford, and then also a 20-point victory over Page. The victory over Western 75-56, and then the rivalry win a few Friday nights ago, 77-57. Really good momentum. We've talked about it all year in the home gym, and that seemed to just be the truth again against Western and Page as well.
Right. Against Western Guilford, I thought we came out a little bit slow. We really did. But, give Western a whole lot of credit because they challenged us, pushed us, did a lot of good things against our defenses and came out, play with a lot of energy. It's one of the things where, our kids, we talked to them at halftime and, we had said, hey, man, if you thought Western was going to come out here and just roll over just because you're Grimsley, you got another thing coming. So, we came out second half against Western, played much harder, played more together or played better team basketball. And we were able to put a win against them. But then, I think maybe looking ahead a little bit to Page with that game against Western. So we talked about making sure that we focused a little bit more on every single one of our opponents. So when Page came in on that Friday, we talked about one of the things we have to do against them early is to establish some sort of energy and momentum to start the game. And I thought we did an excellent job of that. I think we jumped out on them maybe like 16 or 18-2 or something like that. And then I think they made a couple pushes at us, but I don't think they ever got it under 10. So, we were very, very pleased with the way we played in that game against Page.
I want to circle two things with that Page game. First of all, you bring up the jumping out on them. It's the second, third, maybe even fourth time this year that there's been similar scores. It was like that against Northwest. It was like that against Southeast earlier in the year. It's something that has allowed you to go ahead and work on different things inside games, put the press into coverage maybe a little bit earlier on than you were expecting in a game, test out different things. We talked about how helpful that was, but how nice is it even later in the season is now you're getting ready. You faced off against some of the best teams in the Metro 4A. You're getting ready for the conference tournament. You're getting ready for postseason play to even implement another wrinkle or two later on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, when we've gone through this first half of the season, we haven't completed it. We got to get play over at Northern tomorrow. But, in this first half, I think we've been able to put together some good momentum to try to lead us into the second half of the season. And then once you've seen somebody once, you try to make minor adjustments to your game plan. They've seen what you do the first time, so you may want to throw something a little bit different at them the second time that you play them. But, we've played really, really well. I mean, I love how our chemistry started. We're getting great performances from not just Richard Goods, but from Nick Keith and from Faison Brandon and Kareem Osmond. So a lot of these guys and Caden Cato, Caden is the one who really, really brings the energy for us every single night. And so we kind of feed off of his energy. So, we're getting those performances from players. We're playing at a high level right now. So the thing with us is we just have to make sure that we stay consistent every single night.
And the other thing I want to talk about inside that Page game is the fact it wasn't the first time you've seen them. You went ahead and you played them in the Heiko tournament first round, struggled against them, and it ultimately fell to the Pirates. But next
Mhm.
time, I mean, it looked like two completely mindsets. Obviously, there's got to be some extra hunger. I mean, it's a rivalry game. The gym was packed on that Friday night, but also a little bit extra hunger that really helped the team, assuming based off the first time you two faced off.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to come off of a loss. You always want to win every single game. But I think the kids saw some of the social media posts and other things that were put out there after we lost to them the first time, and people don't realize that stuff is bulletin board material. So we just wanted to come out and play a little bit tougher and a little bit harder, and we changed up a couple things that we did defensively. So that's one of the things about coaching. Coaching is you have to make adjustments, and so from one game to the next, you have to be able to try to find something different that works for you. Because whatever we were doing the first game, I think we just had a lot of lack of energy in the first game. But the second one, I really thought we came out and played well, and we executed our defensive game plan. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great game. But Grimsley Page is always going to be great. It's a great environment. The rivalry is second to none. It's just a great environment to be in. So, we have to face them one more time, but that's a little ways down the road.
And after that Page game, as we start to trend towards the later half of the season, you had a week break before last Friday at Southwest, an 81-68 victory, and then tomorrow, Tuesday night, against Northern Guilford. And those were two teams that headed into Friday were the other two undefeated in the conference. I think a lot of people were kind of circling this two-game stretch to not just Grimsley fans because you're playing against the best of the best in the conference, but I think all across the triad and those following high school basketball, because it really is going to give some answers in the Metro 4A. How helpful was it to have that week of preparation before going against Southwest, and how did you feel that game went?
Well, I thought that the week was great for us to have, but we still were battling sickness all week long. We didn't have a full practice with our entire unit the whole week. So it was, one kid sick on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then another kid sick on Wednesday or Thursday. So, we were practicing as best as we could, given the fact that we only had like maybe 9 or sometimes 8 guys who could get out there on the floor. So what we just tried to do is just to focus on where we need to be, looking at what Southwest strengths were. They switch up their defenses a lot. So we had to try to be able to make adjustments to each one of those things, or at least try to prepare for it. So, we prepared for their 1-2-2 extended zone, prepared for their 2-3 zone where they stacked the guards up as well. So, we looked at where people need to go in those areas. So it gave us a lot of chances to walk through things, have some like sort of mental sessions on the court where we're walking about and telling this is where you need to go in certain places. So it did help us out, but still we were in a situation where we just didn't have everybody. So we were lucky to get out there. We still didn't have everybody for the game. We missed Henry Trent, and he's one of our best shooters. So we wish we could have had him against the zone, but we got great performances from 3 guys, from Nick Keith and Faison Brandon and Richard Goods. Those 3 guys scored 20 points each. So that was incredible. And then again, like I said, the performance from Caden, as far as his getting out there and just bringing constant energy on both ends of the floor. We really were on our game on Friday.
And I want to talk about a couple of those guys. Let's start with Nick Keith, since you brought him up first. 20 points Friday night against Southwest. He had 18 the game before against Page. Nick is a guy that he is just a pure scorer. When he's feeling it, when he's in that groove, he is tough to stop. And it feels like he's got really comfortably into that groove over the last week to 2 weeks. How helpful is that for the team? How much does that open up everything else, including the inside game where Goods has already been dominating for a lot of the season?
Well, it helps us out when Nick is playing at his best. I mean, he's a dynamic scorer when he's on, but I think one of the things that gets lost about Nick is the fact that he does a great job dishing out the basketball as well. He leads us in assists this year. I mean, I think he had 9 assists on Friday, but I think his assist turnover ratio is like 3-1. And so when he gets out there and the ball's in his hands, I think he's comfortable making the right play and pushing the pace. So, and it helps him out as well, because once he establishes that tempo and that pace, then he's able to free himself up and get some things going to the basket. People try to give him space, and then he's able to knock down some open jump shots as well. So, we feel very comfortable having the ball in Nick's hands. But, if we're going to do the things we want to do as a team, we know that Nick's got to be at the top of his game.
And then you also bring up Caden Cato. Caden's a really fun guy to watch, and I think watching his growth over the season has been really impressive. There's a few up and downs coming out of football season, which makes sense. Not a ton of practice under the belt, but he, to your point, has been the energy for the team. He's a guy that it feels like you've been able to plug into a lot of different situations. And he's a guy I hear all the time about, whether it's someone watching the game who makes a comment to me, or when it's Mike Fanning who covers the games when I can't. It's clear everyone notices Cato and what he brings to the team. It's not always the points, but it feels like he's almost the glue that brings everything together. And it's really helped spur this team into the run and just the dynamicness that's built over the last 3-4 weeks, even with the team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he is sort of like the guy who brings the energy for us, and we feed off of that. We moved him into the starting lineup for the Western Guilford game. And there was nothing against what Henry Trent had done. Henry had done an excellent job and still is doing an excellent job. But we figured we needed a little bit more of a spark with Caden, and he brings that for us. And not only is he able to get stuff going for us on the defensive end of the floor, where we can put him on anybody's best player and know that he will harass and be all up in their face and do everything he can to get them off kilter. But he can play on both ends of the court because he gets out in transition and finishes on the break well. He's done a good job of getting and shooting mid-range jump shots as well. So, Caden is that guy who really, really sparks us, and we're glad we've got him on our team. We don't want to play against him, I tell you that.
And we start to look a little bit ahead to the next week or so. Southwest was the first of 4 on the road. That includes tomorrow night at Northern, Friday at Southeast, and then it wraps up next Tuesday at Northwest Guilford. Some really uber talented teams, and you're starting to see those teams for the second time in conference play as well, starting Southeast on Friday night and then Northwest next week. How do you kind of help get the team in the groove for those away games? We talked about earlier in the year when Ragsdale was the first true away game you played, that there was the fact that there is the energy that can't be just fans cheering against you that helps. But as you kind of get that grind away from home, does that change things? Is there extra motivation that has to be pushed for the team when it's maybe not as easy to get up as it is a home game, when it's a couple months into the season and you're really just in the grind of the winter?
I think with our guys, we try to tell them that good teams have to be able to win on the road. And I think when you're on the road, your level of focus has to be a little bit higher as well. So, we harp on that in practice as far as making sure that we try to stay disciplined with the decisions that we make and stay with our focus. But yeah, I mean, playing off and feeding off of the other crowd's energy helps us out as well. We want to try to take the crowd out of the game as early as we possibly can. So we really think that if we can just continue our focus and our discipline on the road, then we can really do some really good things.
And with that, as you wrap up the end of quote unquote the first half of the conference season, you really have, I guess you could say, a chance to step on everyone else in the Metro's forays next, quote unquote, with the fact that you can put a 2-game buffer between everyone else and the Grimsley Whirlies. That's something, of course, that's going to be covered by me, the media, and everyone else. But how much is that talked about, if at all, in the team? Or is it, hey, just keep on doing your job? We've said it from day one. You control your own destiny when you play the best you can.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have talked about that. We always try to make sure the focus stays on that one game, and that we focus in on whoever it is that we're playing next. But we did speak about that in practice today. The fact that if we can get this win on the road tomorrow night, then that would give us a 2-game cushion on everybody. And going into the second half of the season, you kind of want something like that. So that has not become lost on us. We we know that we've got to come out here and play hard tomorrow night. You know, Northern is a really good ball team. They have played really good teams. You know, if you look at some of the losses that they've lost to some pretty good programs. You know, losing to Wakefield and Reedsville and Panther Creek. Those are some great teams. You know, I know those teams from when I played or coached in Fayetteville. But you know, we've got a tremendous task at hand tomorrow night, and we know that we have to come out ready to play. Northern is going to give us everything they've got, so we just got to be ready.
And I mean, going 2-0 against Southwest and Northern on the road would be a huge feat, as they are some of the most talented teams year in, year out. Let's kind of start to look ahead at these next two games this week. Again, it's tomorrow night on the road at Northern, and then on Friday at Southeast Guilford. Let's start with that Northern game. I mean, obviously, the team's been watching tape. People are aware of what Northern is. They are one of the best teams in Metro 4A. What do you see from them that you're really looking to work against?
Well, I mean, we've got to make sure that we don't allow their shooters to get into any type of rhythm early on. They've got 2 or 3 guys on the wing who can shoot the ball pretty well. But, you know, when we watch film on them, you know, one of the things that we talked about was just trying to keep their guards out of the paint. You know, they have really quick guards who, once they get into the paint, that they can either finish or they can dish out to guys who can knock down jump shots. So, you know, we really talked about that today, is trying to limit penetration from their guards and making sure we close out hard on shooters. So, you know, those are things that they are going to, you know, they're going to try to get and do as best they can. And they don't quit either. You know, I looked at the game that they had against Southwest. They were down 14 points and came back and was just methodically came back. It wasn't they were trying to get it all back in one possession. They just continued to play hard. So, you know, they're a very well coached team. They mixed their defenses up, and we talked about that a little bit as well today. It's trying to figure out what we do against each of their defenses that they do in the half court as well. So, you know, we know we've got a tremendous task going over to Northern and trying to get a victory. So it's always hard to play over there. I think we've had some success over at Northern playing in their gym, but you know, anytime you play on the road in a conference game against a really good basketball team, you got to be at your best.
And then on Friday, after facing at Northern, you're at Southeast Guilford on Friday night. It really is the start of part number 2, half number 2 of the conference play. You go ahead and face a team that you open conference play with and beat them 71-31. It's not easy to beat a team twice, though.
No, it's definitely not easy to beat a team twice, you know. So our goal with that game is just to make sure that we stay focused and we stay locked in. You know, it's one of the things where I talked to my staff about it earlier. You know, you look at what Pitt did at Duke. Duke beat Pitt like by 30 at Pittsburgh. And then here you come maybe 2-3 weeks later, and now Pitt puts together a really strong performance and is able to win in Cameron. So it's one of those things where anybody can get you on any night if you don't come ready to play. So I think we've got to make sure that after this Northern game, we try to stay focused for the 2 days following getting ready to play Southeast, because their kids play hard. You know, they're going to come out and do everything the right way and do everything that their coach is asking them to do. So, you know, we have to make sure that we go over there with the right frame of mind and don't think that, oh, well, we're just going to walk over there and win because you won the first game. No, it's one of those things where you have to make sure the second game you come out with a better effort than you had in the first game.
And Coach, you bring up the college circuit. It's only right we end with some fun. I mean, obviously the focus on the high school and the focus on the season ahead of you, but nonetheless, I mean, we all enjoy some hoops around here. We all sit back, watch some college NBA hoops. Who's really impressed you this year, whether it's the college NBA circuits, whatever it is? I mean, the Timberwolves, for one, in the NBA world have just blown me away. But who are you enjoying? Who's really impressed you this year so far?
Well, I think a lot of teams, so much parity in college basketball now. You saw that so many teams were beaten last week in the top 25. It was unprecedented the week that they had as far as the amount of teams who had lost. But I think there are several good teams out there. Kansas is really good, and even though I think they lost to Central Florida or something this past week. And then, you know, I really like Carolina. I was fortunate enough to sit courtside watching Carolina play against Louisville the other night. But, you know, you're able to see the way that Coach Davis has them playing right now. They're playing at another level. And so, you know, there's a lot of teams out there that are good. Purdue is really good. Arizona, when they come to play, they're good as well. So much parity in college basketball that, this could be anybody's year now as far as national championships concerned. I don't even want to test trying to figure out who's going to win, who would even be in the Final Four or Sweet 16. There's way too many good teams out there. But I think you also see that the mid-major programs, because of the transfer portal, they've got guys who aren't scared of these teams who are playing in the Power Five conferences. They don't have guys who are going to go out there and be intimidated by them, because a lot of these guys are 5th and 6th year college basketball players. So, we'll see what happens coming down the stretch, but college basketball is anybody's game right now.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, I've had a few buddies tell me UNC may have the best team they've had since they won the national championship a few years ago. It should be an absolutely great season, Coach. I want to thank you so much for sitting down with us tonight. Again, Grimsley facing off tomorrow night, Tuesday night at Northern Guilford, and then Friday is at Southeast Guilford. You're listening to This Is Whirlie Nation on its pretty set night. Sounds like Monday nights at 7:30. Coach, thank you as always.
Thank you, Chase. I appreciate you, sir, as always.
Of course. Hopefully the Whirlies looking to go 2-0, stay undefeated in conference play. For everyone part of Tobacco Road Sports Radio and the Grimsley Whirlies basketball team, we thank you all so much for listening. You've been listening to This Is Whirlie Nation.